Terumos. Hey, 100 beds of truma and one chulin. All are permitted if of a kind whose seed disintegrates, but if of a kind whose seed does not disintegrate, then even if there is 100 of chulin and one of truma, all are forbidden. What grows from tevel is permitted if it is of a kind whose seed disintegrates, but if a kind of seed who does not disintegrate, then what grows from that what grows from what was grown is forbidden. Which is kind whose seed does not disintegrate? Arum, garlic, and onion. Yehuda says garlic is like barley. If one weeds leek plants with a non-Jew, though the product is table, he may eat it by chance meal. If truma seedlings which have become unclean were replanted, they become clean in that they do not convey uncleanliness. But one may not eat them until the edible part is cut out. And Yehuda says until he cuts it out and repeats thus.
Okay, very good. This is going to get into some interesting laws that we use in standard kashrus, even though we're talking about truma. But the principles actually are going to be extrapolated out to a lot of principles in Isser v'Heter. Um, so our first case is batzal. So this is a truma onion. Shenasana v'soch adashim. So you've got a bunch of cooked lentils, and you put this onion into this onion of truma into the chulin lentils.
Right.
Im shalem mutar. If the onion is whole, then we say then it didn't give any taste to the lentils. Im chitcho, however, if the onion was cut up, then the flavor is free to depart from the onion, and it will go into the lentils. And now we fall back on the thing on the principle of benosen tam, right? We now have to judge whether the onion has given flavor to the lentils. And how do you judge that? Well, you get a coin. A coin is tahor to taste it.
Right.
And you're gonna say, yeah, I can taste onion in here. And then the Israel has got to sell it to the coin as meduma, basically, as a mixture. Or if he says, no, no, it's just plain lentils, then the Israel is mutar to eat it. Okay. Ushar kol hatavshil. However, this is a specific exception for lentils because something about lentils makes them not absorb flavor from other things easily. Okay, but other kinds of dishes, bein shalem, bein mechutach, benosin time, then it doesn't matter if your onion is whole or sliced. Again you have to get your coin to come and taste and see if it's edible or not. If you can taste the onion.
Right.
Okay. Now, I'll just finish the Mishnah and I'll make a point about this. Rabbi Yehuda Matir B'tzachna, he's talking about fish brine. There's a certain kind of fish dish and he says that this fish dish has got the same din as lentils. She'eno ela litolis azuhama. Because the only reason why you're putting the onion in there is to take away a bad taste. So it's not so that won't affect your dish. So the halacha does not follow Rabbi Yehuda here. But the interesting parallel that we learn from this case into regular kashrus is like, let's say you've got isur. So the
Mhm.
truma is replaced now by isur. Let's say I don't know, a piece of chazer fell into a big pot of kosher food. Okay, and you pulled out the chazer. Okay, but now you want to know, did it give taste to the dish? Now in the truma case, you've got a kohen who can come and taste it. In the chazer case, nobody is allowed to taste it. Now, this brings up the question: can you ask a non-Jewish kvela a non-Jew to come and taste it? Okay, can you trust him? Because the
Mhm.
non-Jew doesn't have any mitzvah of lifnei iver, and on the contrary, so this is a whole big discussion in the poskim, and Lamase we don't ever rely on the kvela, on the non-Jew to come and tell us, and that's why we have this rule of thumb called 1 in 60. So we always know 1 in 60 is bittul, but that's only because we don't have the option of asking a taster. So we say once it's reached 1 in 60 for sure, it's too little. But more than that, we've got a bit of a doubt, and therefore we can't have it. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, Mishnah base. Tapuach. You've got an apple. Shirisko, so he has shredded the apple And apple's got a little bit of acidity, and it actually works to ferment and to cause bread to rise. It'll cause that same reaction that you would have in a sourdough starter.
Right.
And the son of the Soch Isa, and he put it into dough, and it started to rise. It became leavened. Okay, so now
We don't want that though. We don't want that. Why don't we want
no,
that?
no. So why don't we want that? Is because the apple was truma.
Oh,
Okay,
okay.
that's the problem. So it's not stated explicitly in the Mishnah, but that is but from the context we can learn that the apple was truma, and it
Right.
caused it to rise. And even though it's like you couldn't taste the taste of the apple, it's such a small amount that causes it to rise. Okay. Hare zos asura. The fact that it caused it to rise is already now a substantial addition that caused by truma, and therefore it could only be eaten by kohanim. Seorim. Now, what if you have barley that fell into the barley of truma? Shenaflu lasocha bor shalmaim, and it fell into a cistern of water. Okay, and now afal pisha hiv ishu meimav. Now the water starts to go all frothy because the barley's been sitting and stewing inside it, and now the water has gone kind of sour. Um, Now you take out the barley and say, okay, the barley was truma, but now are we allowed to drink this water? Is a non-Kohen allowed to drink the water? And the answer is mutar. Why? This is now the principle of tamlif gam. It's a negative taste. It has made the water worse. So just like any other, and that principle we also extend out into general principles in kashrus, basa b'chalav as well. That if you have something that is considered a negative taste, then it is then we don't, as long as it's not the original thing itself. But if
Uh-huh.
something's giving a negative taste to something kosher, we don't care about it. And you have an interesting little rule in kashrus, for example, that you can buy honey anywhere in the world without a hechsher. Why?
Right.
Because it doesn't matter what equipment it was prepared on. It doesn't matter if it had been used for something else. If there's a taste of something else in the honey, if it, anything there is nothing that you can do that will improve on honey. So anything that got added in, any tastes that got absorbed are negative tastes, and therefore
So
you don't. And therefore the negative taste. It's a time nifgam. We don't pay it any attention. It's
when it
not.
comes to Pesach, do you need a special heksha for the honey then?
Pesach is your question on Pesach is no longer about Issa v'Heter. It's about chametz.
Uh,
And if there's a shaila that something might have look before, if you buy it before Pesach, then then you've got bittul. For sure you've got bittul, because if you can't see the chametz in the honey, there's no chametz in the honey. If you're
right.
buying honey during Pesach, you may want to be concerned about was there chametz involved, because there's no bittul for chametz during
Right.
Pesach.
It's an interesting concept about the honey because you're right. You can buy it anywhere, any place, anything. It doesn't need the hechsher, so to speak, on it and all. But meanwhile, sometimes you buy these honeys and you see like five hechsers on them. Like,
I bought drain cleaner with a hechsher on it.
I'm sorry, what'd you buy? I'm sorry.
Drain cleaner with a hechsher.
Hand cleaner with hechsher, really? I one time asked Rabbi Haber, there was something I said, why do like tissues or toilet paper need a hechsher on it? He said, well, sometimes they put perfume in it and all this kind of, like that's what he said to me.
Pesach. For Pesach. Yeah. It's no, it's basically just, it's monetizing amaratus.
Right. Right.
And that's what I mean. You can go into supermarkets in America and buy a container of salt water for your Seder.
I know. I know. It's crazy. It's like and people do it. I bet. Okay.
Okay. Mishnah Gimel.
Okay.
Harode pas chama unasana al pi chavish shel yain truma. Okay. Here's our case. You've got bread warm, fresh out the oven, and he takes it out and puts it to air out on top of a barrel of wine. Okay. And now The bread is, bread out the oven is nice and hot and steamy and whatever, and it's on top of this truma wine. And he looks and says, "Oh my gosh, that wine is truma. Did it absorb taste from the wine?" Okay. Rabbi Meir Oser, he says, yes, it did. It absorbed from the wine, and now this bread has absorbed truma, and it's got to go to a kohen. Rabbi Yehuda Matir, he says, forget about it. There's nothing. There's no substance to this. All it is a smell, and there's no actual mamashas of wine inside your bread. Okay. Rabbi Yossi Matir b'shel chitim v'oser b'shel tzorim. He says that it depends on what your bread's made of. Wheat bread doesn't absorb so easily. Barley bread does. Because barley absorbs. And interestingly, the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, which I wouldn't, normally would, Rabbi Yossi is the halacha over his chaverim, but I kind of felt like Rabbi Yehuda had appealed to me personally. It just seemed like it made sense that there's no actual wine going up and touching the
Yeah.
bread. But nonetheless, that's the situation. Okay,
Okay.
Lion Gimel.
Gimel. If one serves food to his sons, who are minors, or to his slaves, whether adults or minors, or eats truma from outside of Eretz Israel, or eats less than an alm's bulk of truma, he repays its value but does not pay the fifth. And that is that which is given in payment is chulin. If the priest wishes to forego, he can forego. This is a general principle. Whenever the value plus a fifth is repaid, the payment is truma. If the priest wishes to forego, he may not do so. And whenever the value of is repaid, but not the fifth, the payment is chulin. If the priest wishes to forego, he can forego. And if there were two baskets, one of truma and the other of chulin, and a saw of truma fell into one of them, and it is not known into which it fell, I presume that it fell into one of the truma. If it is not known which is of truma and which is of chulin, and he ate one of them, and is that he is exempt, and the other he treats as truma, and it is liable to challah. So says Rav Meir. But Rabbi Yossi exempts, and if another person ate the other one, he's exempt. If one ate both, he repays the value of the smaller one of the two. Okay. Yeah. Shvius. Okay. Zion base. They lay down another general principle. Whatever is not human food or cattle food or a species of dying matter and keeps it in the ground, its seventh year applies to it and its proceeds. Beer does not apply to it or to its proceeds. And which are they? The roots of the wild loaf and the roots of the mint, the hart's tongue, the root of the milkweed and hazelwort. And of the spices of dying matter, the matter and the sow bread, the seventh year applies to them and to their proceeds. Beer does not apply to them or to their proceeds. And Rav Meir says beer applies to their proceeds until the new year. They said to him, beer does not apply to them, much less to their proceeds. Husks and blossoms of the pomegranate, shells of nuts and the kernels, the seventh year applies to them and to their proceeds. The dyer may die for himself, but may not die for payment, because one may not trade with the seventh year produce or with firstborn, or with trumos, or with carrion, or with trefa, or with reptiles, or with creeping things. And one may not buy field vegetables and sell them in the market, but one may gather them and his son sells it for him. If he took for himself and some was left over, he may sell them. If one bought a firstborn for his son's feast, for a pilgrimage festival, and he does not need it, he may sell it. Hunters of wild animals, birds, and fish who chanced upon unclean species may sell them. Rabbi Yehuda says also, if anyone chanced upon it, he may take it and sell it, provided he does not that is not his trade, but the common forbid it. Okay.
Brachas.
Okay. Zion base. Women, slaves, and minors are excluded from Zimun. What quantity for Zimun? An olive size. Yehuda says the size of an egg. How do they say the common grace? When three, no, I'm sorry, is that right? Yeah. Okay. How do they say the common grace? When three, one says, "Let us bless." When there are three beside him, he says, "Bless." If 10, he says, Let us give blessing to our Lord." With 10 beside him, bless. Whether 10 or 10 times 10,000. With 100, he says, "Let us bless the Lord our God." With 100 beside him, he says, "Bless." When 1,000 have eaten, he says, "Let us bless the Lord our God, the God of Israel." When there are 1,000 beside himself, he says, "Bless." If 10,000 men, he says, let us bless the Lord our God, the God of Israel, the God of hosts, who sits between the cherubim and the food we have eaten. When there are 10,000 beside him, he says, bless you. After the manner that he blesses, so do they answer him. Blessed be the Lord our God and the God of Israel, who sits between the cherubim and the food we have eaten. Rabbi Yossi the Gilead says, according to the multitude of the congregation do they bless, and as it is said, bless God in full assemblies, oh, even the Lord. You are that are from the fountain of Israel. Rabbi Akiva said, what do we find in the synagogue, whether there are many or few? One says, bless the Lord, and Israel says, blessed be the Lord, who is blessed. Okay.
Okay. And one more.
All right. Here. Okay. If three have eaten together, they are not allowed to separate. And so, if there are four or five, six may separate up to 10, but 10 may not separate until there are 20.
Oalos.
Olios. Um, we have Yud Aleph Hey. No, you have if the tumor is inside the house while Tahor, people pass over him. Beit Shammai declares them Tahor, whereas Beit Hillel declares them Tameh. A dog ate corpse flesh and then died, and is presently lying across the threshold of a house. The mayor says if its neck is a handbreadth wide, tumor spreads into the house, and if not, tumor does not spread into the house. Rabbi Yoshi says we check the tumor. If it's inside the doorstep, the house becomes tameh. If it is outside the doorstep, the house remains tahor. Rabbi Eliezer says if its mouth is inside, the house remains tahor, and if its mouth is outside, the house becomes tameh because the tumor it exits through its rear. Rabbi Yehuda ben Basara says that any of those cases, the house becomes tummy. How long can the corpse flesh remain inside until conveyed tuma? 3 24-hour periods. And regarding birds and fish, long enough to be thrown into a fire and become burnt. These are the words of Reb Shimon. Rabbi Yehuda ben Basara says regarding the birds and fish for 24 hours. A cistern inside a house
We're done.
contains
We're
a
done
can.
there. We're done there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Oh wait, let me just it's over here because I will.
What is our Aleph Vav?
Okay, Aleph Vav. In a place in which there is a custom to sell small livestock to idolaters, it is permitted to sell them. In a place which is accustomed not to sell, it is not permitted to sell. But in every place it is forbidden to sell them large livestock, calves or foals, whether whole or maimed. And Rabbi Yehuda permits in the case of maimed one, and Rabbi Sarah permits in the case of a horse. One may not sell them bears or lions or anything that has in it the potential to cause injury to the public. One may not build with them a basilica, a scaffold, or a stadium or a platform, but one may build with them bismaios and bathhouses. When they reach the vault in which they place an idol, it's forbidden to build. One may not make ornaments for an idol, such as necklaces, earrings, or finger rings. And Rev Elliot says, for a payment, it is permitted. And one may not sell them anything attached to the ground, but one may sell it when it is cut. Rabbi Yehuda says he may sell it to him on the condition that it be cut. And one may not rent them houses in Eretz Israel, and it's needless to mention fields. In Syria, one may rent them houses, but not fields. And outside of Eretz Israel, one may sell them houses and rent them fields. These are the words of a mayor. And Yossi says in Eretz Israel, one may rent them houses, but not fields. In Syria, one may sell them houses and rent them fields. And outside of Eretz Israel, one may sell them both these and those.
Okay.
And we are on to Hagiga. We're going to finish Hagiga.
Yeah, we're going to finish soon.
Yeah, next
Tomorrow.
okay.
And then, then we go into Yavamas.
Well, okay. The stringency of Truma is as follows. In Judea, the Amaharitz are believed concerning the Katara of wine and oil throughout the year and during the wine pressing and olive pressing seasons. The Amaharitz are believed even concerning Truma. If the wine pressing and olive pressing seasons have passed and they brought him a barrel of wine of Truma, he should not accept it from them, but he may accept it aside for the next wine pressing season. However, if he told them within it I have separated a fourth of a log of a kodesh, he is believed. Concerning jugs of wine and jugs of oil that are still mingled, they are believed about them during the wine pressing and the oil pressing season, and even for 70 days prior to the wine pressing season. From Modi'in onward, they are believed concerning earthenware vessels. From Modi'in outward, they are not believed. How so? If the potter selling the pans The potter selling the pots came inward to Movdim regarding the very potter, the very pots, and the very purchases. He's believed, but if he left, he is not believed. Tax collectors who entered a house and likewise thieves who returned utensils they had stolen are believed to say, "We did not touch them." In Yerushalayim, they are believed concerning the Kodesh the entire year, and during the festival season, they are believed even concerning Truma. If one, oh,
With
that's
that,
it.
yeah.
Okay. I want to, so you've almost, okay. What do you want to do about